Welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's episode, my priority is to put that body back on this chassis. Now, we've pretty much got everything that I can think of right now done to the chassis that I can do to it before we put the body back on. I prefer not to do things upside down, so where we have everything accessible here, we're good. The last thing I'm waiting for is basically a little jiggle valve that goes on top of, I call it a jiggle valve. It's like a little vent that goes on top of the axle housing. I usually put it on a rubber tube and then actually put a clamp and hold it to the side of the frame. That's the last thing I have to do to get ready to put that on the frame here. We'll have to take the gear shifter off, drop the brake pedal forward, and I think if I pull up the emergency brake, that's how I got it off last time. So if all goes well, the valve comes in, I'll get my little jig that we put inside of the body here, which is basically an H-shaped kind of wood frame. We pick it up from the center with the engine hoist there, and I set it on the frame. So worked well for me before on Brenda's Roadster. We took it on and off a couple times. I plan to do the exact same thing with this. So anyway, fingers crossed, we'll get that in. We'll get the body on the frame, and then we'll carry on working on some stuff on the 33 Ford chassis too. So tonight was the big night of putting the body on the chassis, as you can see. I didn't set the time lapse up, should have. Took quite a while because I was very nervous. It's not like the first time I did this, but I've done this quite a few times, but it's a super nice paint job and I didn't want to scratch it anywhere. So anyways, the approach that I take is I basically take a wooden frame. You can make it out of 2x4s, whatever you want. Position it inside of the body here. And then basically you're going to move this forward and back until you find the balance point. And then side to side also. When I get close to it, then I went and got the camera lady. We jacked it up off of the cart, which is outside right now. Pulled it back, rolled the chassis this way, and then ever so slowly lowered it down until it sat on the frame. We got a pretty nice rake to it. A little bit more than I thought, but it's really cool. Really, I know that's not the way people do things now. People like the low on the ground, dragging the mufflers and airbags and all that kind of fun stuff, which is neat all on its own, but I kind of really like the old hot rod thing. In my day, the rear end was up a little bit, the front was down some, and things weren't scraping on the ground. Each to their own. This is the way we want to build this one. We want to have a little bit of a rake to it. We want big and littles. Anyways, right now I'm just going to get some screwdrivers and some stuff, and I'm going to align the body holes with the frame. They're super close right now. I've got a couple bolts in already. And then I'm going to take the H supporting thing out of the body. Pull that jack away, because even though that's a new jack, I don't want to leave it there just overnight in case the hydraulics go down onto it and bump the paint. So we'll move this out of the way right now, maybe get a couple more bolts into it, but we now have the body back on the chassis, which is super cool. Today we're going to pick away on the 33 chassis, still waiting for some flanges to fit on the exhaust manifolds. To start building the exhaust, I need some stainless steel flanges to fit there. We've ordered them, got most of the exhaust stuff there already. But before we go on that, like I said, the bolts and the brackets for the rear spring, got those in place. Just have to tighten those up now. Everything's painted, it looks good. But right now, I went through a lot of headaches trying to get clearance on the front suspension quite a few episodes ago, because the fear was that the frame was going to hit the tie rod. Now we're actually sitting a little bit too high. I kind of thought the spring was going to compress more than what it did with the Hemi into it, but it simply isn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that spring back out. We're going to take it apart and we're going to re-arch it. We're going to drop it probably about 1.25 inches There's 3.5 inches clearance now between the frame and the tie rod. We need about 1 inch, so I'll leave it about 1.25 inches. We'll drop her another 1.25 inches, see if that makes it look a little bit better. Now that I got the spring out, which is relatively straightforward, I didn't cover that, but what I'm going to do now is just measure where the spring is right now. So a couple of different things. I'm taking the measurement from there to there, and we're about 3 7/8. I've also taken a piece of crayon there and I've marked the shape of it here on the bench. So what I'll do now is I'm going to take this apart and I'll just start one by one. I'll re-arch this spring so that it sits about 1.25 inches lower on this, and I'll do the subsequent ones like that, and then we'll put her all back together again and check and see if we still have the same amount of drop. If I have the same amount of drop when I'm done, that should result in 1.25 inches drop on the front end of the car. Well, I think I've got the result I wanted, which is a 1.25 inch drop. I've got the main leaf already done here. Let's see, we're sitting at, I'll line that up properly. Sitting at 2 5/8, and we were at 3 7/8 before, so that's my 1.25 inches. I've got the main leaf done. I've got the next 3 leaves done, as you saw in the time lapse. So all I have left to do now is to do these last 3. So I'll do those up over on the hydraulic press over there. We'll bolt it back together again. We'll stick it in the car and see if we've got what we want, which is a little more drop, because we were sitting just too high before. So there's a net effect of putting it in. Probably really can't tell too much, but it actually dropped the front end another inch. Conceivably, we could go a little further, but I think the best thing to do is get all of the weight on the car, intake manifold, body, everything else. I think it's probably going to drop. It's probably going to drop another 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch anyways. So I think we are where we need to be right now by dropping it that extra inch. Everything's bolted back in. I've got the shocks on. I could tell when I took the shocks off and put the shocks back on, I had to squish them in probably 1 inch or 1.25 inches. So it may not look much from here, but it does make a difference. All the bolts are tightened down on the rear spring. Still checking the pinion angle, the engine angle, and everything else. We're still sitting where we should be, right around the 4 degrees, 3 to 4 degrees. So the most important thing is that the rear pinion angle and the engine line, the axis, I guess, are at the same angle. They're equal. That way we don't get any drive shaft shake later on. So that's it for now. We're going to work, I'm not sure what I'm going to work on next, but you'll see in a couple seconds. So while I'm waiting for some parts to come in for the 33 chassis, I'm going to work on some more assembly work on the Camera Ladies 32 Roadster. What we're going to work on tonight, I'm going to start reassembling some of the steering and put the steering column in. One thing I just want to go over, and I probably did this when I first built it before I took it apart, was when you're building these steering shafts with the universal joints and stuff, using the double D type shafts. In our case, we have one universal joint down there on the unisteer. We're going to come up through a steady bearing, which is basically I guess a large heim joint. You can see it down there. It comes through there. We're going to have another universal joint here, and then a third one up there, which will ultimately connect up to the steering column. What I like to do, just for safety's sake, is that I drill a hole. Once I find out where the set screw lines up, I'll drill a hole in the double D shaft, so that in addition to, the set screw, the lock nut, the Loctite, we've also got a mechanical joint where that set screw actually goes into that shaft. Now, most of these have set screws 90 degrees apart. There's two of them. We're going to put two of them on. I think that just using one of these dimples is sufficient enough. But I mean, you certainly could put a dimple here and another hole in the side, and then double it up as far as having two mechanical joints on each shaft. But we'll have two set screws, two lock nuts, the Loctite, and the mechanical joint. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through all of these. I already just double checked to make sure we had the set screw right there where the hole was. So I'll take out that set screw. If you can see it down there, we'll take her out, put some Loctite onto it. And likewise, even where the joint goes onto the unisteer, it's going to go onto a spline, and there'll be a relief along the spline where the set screw is going to go into it. We'll Loctite that one as well. Work our way all the way through here, and then I'll go get the steering column. We'll put the steering column in place up through here, and we'll have that all set up here in a few minutes. I'll show you the finished result. Now I've got all the set screws Loctited in place, and both of them on, both the set screws, the lock nuts, the Loctite. The one going to the steering column, I only have it firm, just kind of tacked them or snugged in place right now. I still have to put those in. So I've installed the steering column and in the process now of aligning it to where it was before. I've got the drop column in place. I bought this connecting rod style one. I kind of really like it. The other ones, I've got the flat versions in both of the other cars. I don't know if you can see it. The flat aluminum ones, they're okay. Got it in the 32 as well. I don't know if you can see it through the window there, which that's cool. I just wanted to do something different for the Camber Ladies Roadster. I thought this connecting rod style one was kind of neat, a little cooler for it. So anyways, the dilemma I'm at right now, I've got to decide whether I put the bolts, the nuts or whatever, with the head on this side of the firewall, or I put it with the nuts on this side. I'm leaning more towards having this with the nuts on the other side. It goes for a cleaner look. The Roadster is going to have a hood on it. It's going to be covered up most of the time, but when we're at car shows, obviously we're going to lift the hood up. I'm kind of thinking to put the heads of the bolts on this side and the nuts and the lock washers on the other right now. So kind of have to decide that, and then we're going to carry on with tightening everything down. And then if I can find the steering wheel back there and the adapter, we're going to try and get that on as well, just to get something done on it. There it is. We got the steering column finished mounted in. I did make the decision to put the bolt head out and then the nut and the lock nut on the inside, and I'm probably sure everybody else is going to agree with me on that one. Looks a little better on the firewall. I got the rest of the set screws, the Loctite and the set screw nuts attached on the steering column here. And then on the inside, we got everything bolted down. You've got the collar tightened at the bottom. We've got the connecting rod bolts tightened up, and I centered the steering wheel as best I can. Probably once I get driving it, I may have to actually undo it and then move it over a notch or so. But for now, it's all in tight, so that way we can move things around when we have to. But that's the the camera lady's steering wheel that she chose. It's pretty much the same as what we have on the 32 pickup. We kind of really like the banjo style. It's not a real banjo steering wheel. It's basically one of the 9-bolt knockoffs that you can buy, but we still think it's pretty cool. Got the gear shifter stuck in. That's bolted down. The sheet metal is not bolted down yet on the floor of the transmission tunnel because we'll still have to go inside there later on and hook up the neutral safety switch and everything else. So that's just setting in place. Then on the back, I just for no reason whatsoever, decided I wanted to put the taillights in, the 39 Ford taillights. Thought it'd be pretty cool. The boxes were sitting on the counter over there too. Want to start working on the door mechanisms and the dovetails and everything, but I have them all, which is all good, but I need to get some 1224 taps. The last one that I used blew up. If you recall, or anybody that was watching when we did Brenda's Roadster, I had to put the dovetails in the side here, those little pieces there, and then basically on these doors there's a little metal plate and back you've got to drill through and tap the 1224 holes. I blew the tap up, it cracked basically on the first turn, high-end tap, no idea why, and went through a lot of work trying to get it out. Anyways, I bought half a dozen of these 1224 taps, so they'll be here in another week or so we'll be able to get onto that stuff. But other than that, we're just going to plug away at whatever I can, probably put the deck lid on, everything else. We're just going to work away piece by piece at the Camera Ladies Roadster. But when the parts come in for the 33 chassis, we're going to pick away at that. So that's it for another week of Coldstream Rod Shop. We got quite a bit of little things done. The most important thing, like I said at the beginning, I really wanted to do was get the body back on the chassis. And then we could just pick away at doing the reassembly here over the winter. Lots of stuff I have to dig out and find and put on. As I just went through, we got the steering column all put in place and everything tightened up. So now everything steers just fine. It's really tight, and just for fun, I put the taillights in because I had them in a box and it looks cool to put them in. And all the bolts, when we put the body back in, everything lined up really nice. Didn't have any issues with that. And then of course on the 33 chassis, we did get the front end dropped another inch by re-arching the front spring. So kind of inching that along. We're waiting for some parts to come in on that to start working on the exhaust. And I guess I just never had time to work on Ellie's coupe. So anyways, this week coming up, I'm going to be working all 3 of those things and hopefully do a couple more things to the Camera Ladies Roadster. But that's it for this week of Coldstream Rod Shop. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Come on back next week and see what we're up to. Everybody take care and have a great week.